All right, everybody ready? Mr. Tommy, you ready? Sure. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 5th, 2019 meeting. It's official time at 6 o'clock. Looks great. I'd like to invite y'all back to many of these meetings. I'd love to see this room filled like this at all our meetings. But this time I'll call this meeting to order. I need approval of the agenda.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. It's our privilege tonight. Donald Black, trustee at St. Paul AME Church, is going to lead us on our invocation and our pledge.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us bow our heads first, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for your provisions. We thank you for allowing us to live in a county that elects its own leaders and that we can, with varying opinions, come to and seek a consensus for the good of all. Thank you for the spirit of brotherhood that exists and allows for peaceful solutions. As my pastor says Sunday, Lord, as we leave this place, be the driver of every car that we get home safely. These blessings I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Before we get started on planning the zoning, I just let everybody know both sides will have an opportunity to speak tonight. We're going to ask Tim Petrowski to come in and present the first item. The applicant will have opportunity to come forward. The board will have opportunity to ask them questions, and then we'll turn it over to those opposed to any of these zoning topics. Mr. Petrowski.
Chairman, item A is a request by Linda Ridley on behalf of Lawrence Lewis Jr. This is a request to rezone 387 Pulaski Street from R1 with historic overlay to C2. The Planning Commission has recommended denial of this request.
All right. Is there any questions for Mr. Petrowski? Ms. Ridley, are you here? Would you like to come forward and address the board?
Good evening. My name is Rachel Gage. I'm an attorney for Ms. Ridley, so I'm going to be speaking on her behalf tonight, and she's here to answer any questions that you might have as well. This application is about allowing Ms. Ridley, the owner of her property, to make a reasonable economic use of her property, which is what the law requires. We're not attacking the historic overlay. We're not attacking the historic character of the property. In fact, Ms. Ridley has raised her kids in this area. She's lived here a long time. She really cares about this community, and she's always been willing to compromise and to do what's necessary to protect the character of the property. We think that granting this application very much allows that to happen. The reality is this property has frontage on Gray Highway. It's a commercial corridor. The property is located very close to a commercial node. Right across the street is a Popeyes. It's my understanding that that property was very recently rezoned to commercial to allow for that development. There's nothing different about this property, especially concerning the frontage on Gray Highway. This is a large tract of land. The back part of the property has a historic home on it. Ms. Ridley has always been willing to preserve the historic home. Granting this application would not remove the protections of the historic overlay. You could take the first step toward allowing a reasonable economic use of the property, reasonable development of Gray County, allow the development that's happening here in this county, in this city, to continue as economically and inevitably is, while still preserving the property. She's willing to talk about whatever measures the Historic Preservation Commission thinks might be necessary. She's been willing in the past and remains willing to subdivide the property into 2 tracts to allow commercial development on the Gray Highway frontage while preserving the back part of the property. And so the application tonight is rezoning the tract commercial as a first step, not touching the historic overlay. All those protections are still in place, but allowing this reasonable development of the property to take place. Now, we do have a petition that Ms. Ridley and her realtor have gathered signatures of people in the community and have a vested interest in this, who are in favor of granting the application, who recognize that the benefit of this kind of economic development that this zoning designation would bring to the area. And we only have one copy of it, but can I hand it up, or should you? I'll preserve it if you want to see it later on.
192. 192.
Thank you, Ms. Ridley. 192 signatures on the petition. And we can, of course, provide more copies of it anytime, but those are what I have. The property owner is Ms. Ridley's son, Lawrence Lewis, who's provided a power of attorney for the application, but he also has an interest, of course, in the property, and he's joining us this evening on Ms. Ridley's phone. He wrote a letter in support of the application that I would encourage you to review. He also grew up around here, cares a lot about the community, wants to do the right thing, and believes that this rezoning is the right thing to do.
And the real estate agent will read it out for the audience to hear.
Okay, this is
that
from Major
Okay.
Major Lawrence Lewis. To whom it may concern, I'm writing in regards to the proposed subdivision rezoning appointment of the property located at 387 Pulaski Street, Gray, Georgia, 31032. I have owned the property for approximately 13 years and have lived in Jones County for 20 years. During my time as a proud Jones County resident, I have observed the unique culture, history, and architectural significance of the Old Clinton area and greater town of Gray. I have had many great memories from attending my sister's softball games to watching the Jones County Greyhounds succeed on the football field, eating my favorite childhood treats at Dairy Queen, to processing my first deer after a hunt. I only allude to these memories to convey that my family is deeply vested in the love of Jones County and is endeared to its positive growth. A little background. The Old Clinton area has a significant, important history for not only Jones County, but the United States as a whole, with the early 19th century frame plain style and plantation plain style architecture and military historical significance. I have been in the Army over 15 years and have had the opportunity to serve across the world. Over my career, I have studied military history for professional and personal development. Understanding the history of a place and culture of its people is necessary for any community to grow, and I saw it firsthand during combat deployments overseas. I recognize history must be preserved, but it also must be taken in to educate and influence the future. With increased visitation comes increased understanding and knowledge of our unique area. History that is forgotten ceases to be history. If the history we're trying to preserve is allowed to fall apart as seen by dilapidating houses and overgrown structures, then our efforts become fruitless. This rezoning opportunity addresses those concerns for restoring our community. When I heard that I had an opportunity to help preserve and improve a small piece of American history, having links to America's most devastating war, I took pride in purchasing this property. Immediately after a year-long deployment to Iraq, fighting for the rights of all Americans to live free lives as they wish. I, having been on the fields of combat and agony, understand the significance of the location and land. I understand the great devastation of Sherman's March, so much so that I am being recommended by the Sons of Confederate Veterans to be an official Friends of the SCV member. Sponsoring SCV camp and recommending member information can be provided upon request. So to those who would think that allowing this property to be rezoned would detract from the historical significance of the area, I say it would be far more likely to do the opposite by bringing more visibility to our wonderful area with increased tourism, historical preservation, amenities, and financial benefit for the community. A few concerns. I understand that some stakeholders are concerned that the character of Clinton has the potential to be corrupted if the property is allowed to be zoned commercial. The primary concern is to maintain the aesthetics of our 19th century lower Piedmont frontier Georgia town. If we allow land within the historical district to be commercialized, people believe we will lose our history and heritage. Of the numerous businesses that are already operating within the district, I would say the heritage of the area has not been diminished, but rebuffed with increased travel, visitation, and population migration. Although I don't see a 19th century plantation-style architecture and wainscoting and carved sunburst medallions or Victorian-style windows with trim porches when I look at Popeye's chicken restaurant across the street from my property, I know that businesses can be required to conform to architectural standards of a community. And he lists some examples below with pictures of a McDonald's in Long Island, McDonald's in Freeport, which is a colonial house, another structure in Key West, Florida, and a Walmart in Hawaii. Structures built in the appropriate architectural style, taking into requirements for storefront community conformity, would eliminate issues of eyesores and detracting modern structures from our area. Another concern is the protection of the investment of nearby properties and loss of historic viewscapes. Discrete fencing and natural green barriers, shrubbery, would allow for little to no disruption from the current viewscapes that Old Clinton residents currently enjoy. The updated landscaping and maintenance would actually serve to make the scenery more accessible and enjoyable to the naked eye, as a large portion of Old Clinton historic area is overgrown with kudzu, poorly maintained landscaping, and structural decay. As far as the community benefit, currently there are no benefits, nor is there any historical association revenue support, similar to an HOA, for the maintenance of homes and curbscape in the historical area. So to claim that this community supports the preservation, restoration, and maintenance of the area because of its historical significance does not seem accurate. It further indicates the lack of authority and influence the Historical Society and other interested parties should have over the disposition of private property that is not specifically named in historical filings. He notes the specific residence of 387 Pulaski Street is not mentioned or alluded to in historical filings on the National Registry for Old Clinton. Allowing the property to be subdivided and hence keeping the home and other original structures untouched and zoned residential while separating the remaining unbuilt land to be zoned commercial would actually serve to increase surrounding property values. The Rosser Barron House can be restored and have scheduled openings for tours throughout the year and during the annual War Days celebration / reenactments, creating an additional asset to the historical offerings of the community. One of the primary comments visitors to the War Days events have is they wish there was a place to close to the battlefield reenactment that had restrooms, water or food, and other amenities within walking distance without having to cross the highway. As we speak to them, since most of the participants park on the open field next to my property and own my property. Every year we tell them we are trying as I open my property to them for overflow parking. Just a few significant facts. The actual property of 387 Pulaski Street is not specifically listed in the original historical filing for the National Registry. However, it does fall within the designated historical area, along with numerous other properties and businesses. It is also of particular note in the original filing for the National Historical Register, filed on July 15, 1974, that mention of restoration plans occurs on 4 separate occasions: page 4, paragraph 5, page 3, paragraph 3, page 5, paragraph 1, and also page 7, paragraph 4, highlighting the original proponents' focus on preservation, maintenance, and improvement. The document specifically says a preservation plan for Clinton is presently underway, with its major premise being that of Old Clinton as viable, restored community that reflects architecturally, historically, and environmentally the history of an early 19th century Lower Piedmont frontier Georgia town. My proposed subdivision and rezoning is in direct support of the original intent to keep Old Clinton vibrant, historically accurate, accessible, and beautiful. In closing, we should not only have great expectations of ourselves, but also of others who have chosen to serve this great community. I believe this subdivision and rezoning opportunity will serve to strengthen the historical heritage of Old Clinton, the financial benefit of Jones County, and the entire community of Gray, Georgia, with added benefits of potential business and partners that have Gray's best interests in mind. Let's take Gray forward together. Should anyone have any questions about my statement or need to contact me, please do not hesitate. And he lists his contact information below. And again, that's from Major Lawrence Lewis.
May
I get your name?
My name is Emily Davis.
Emily Davis.
Emily.
Just to sum up for you, Ms. Ridley has owned this property, or her son has owned this property for over a decade, and the Historic Preservation Commission has made clear that it is their goal that it remain untouched. Now, I understand where they're coming from, but that's not realistic. It's not fair, and it's not what the law requires. She owns the property, and she has a constitutional right to use it in a reasonably economic way, an economically reasonable way, and we think that granting this application tonight is the first step to allowing her to do that. And again, she remains very willing to compromise and work with those concerned about historic preservation after that step is taken. If we have any time left, we'll reserve it for a rebuttal.
Sure. I'll open it up this time. Questions from the board? Anybody on the board have any questions?
Do we know what the intended use of the property is going to be?
Not at this time. We're just seeking a rezoning that's not tied to a site plan right now.
So we've had 3 offers. 2 have been multifamily developers, and we've also had another commercial developer that has an interest in the property, but currently no residential interest.
Anyone else on the board? Attorney Brody, have you any questions?
I think we need to clarify some things with Mr. Petrowski, but I have nothing for Ms. Gage.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. If we can, we'll start with the opposed, and then we'll do some clarification. Ms. Earlene Hamilton, I think you were first signed on the. You'd like to come forward?
Good evening. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Can you hear me? All right. And I wrote my comments so that I will stay on point. I tend to ramble when I talk about Clinton, so forgive me for reading some. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Old Clinton Historical Society to request that you do deny the application for C2 zoning in the historic district. As you know, C2 zoning has a shopping basket full of things that can go there once that zoning is in place. It doesn't take any more oversight, and the list has got some very intrusive kinds of development that could go there. Clinton's historic significance was recognized nationally back in 1974, as was mentioned, with its listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The listing at that time did recognize 13 contributing antebellum structures, and this house is one of those antebellum structures. The listing also referenced the importance of Clinton's open spaces, which allows one to see the outlines of that early 1800s town with little modern encroachment, unlike what has now happened across the highway along US 129. The commercial development over from Light and Tie Road down west to the creek obliterated the site of the Clinton Female Seminary, which was the precursor to Wesleyan, and much of that commercial space that has been built there sits empty today. Further west, across from the old Clinton barbecue site, is more commercial development, which is also within the National Register District, and a lot of that is also empty today. The locally designated historic district, which has protected the rest of Clinton since the late 1980s, is all that's left of what was once the 4th largest town in Georgia and the county seat of Jones County. There are countless hours of volunteer work that have gone into maintaining the property and fundraising for Old Clinton Historical Society to help with that, and private homeowners have shouldered the upkeep and the maintenance of their homes, which with old houses is a major commitment. The recent visit by the state's tourism development team highlighted Clinton's economic value for heritage tourism, in addition to its contribution as a significantly historic place in both the county and the state's history. One comment that was made by a team member is that the heritage tourist wants to stand where it happened, and today in Clinton you can still do that. OCHS members and friends have been working since 1974 to preserve and protect Clinton, and because of that, we have old places and open spaces, of which there are less and less in the world every day. Please help us keep those places and spaces safe without those encroachments, so that not only this current generation, but those also yet to come can see a little bit of what the world used to look like. So again, respectfully, we request that you deny this commercial application, and we appreciate your attendance, or your attention, excuse me. And if you don't mind, there are a number of people in the room here in support of our request to deny who have not asked to speak. I would like to ask them to stand and just be recognized.
If you're in opposition to this zoning, Ms. Hamilton asked you to stand, that'd be fine.
Thank you. And I believe you have letters from several folks who were not able to be here tonight.
Is there any questions for Ms. Hamilton before she? Thank you very much. Mr. Bill Bragg, I think you're on here for. Yes, sir. Sign in for the zone.
Gentlemen of the commission, the fact sheet and map submitted to you in advance contain many particulars of the history of Old Clinton, but I'd like to take 3 minutes to provide more perspective on that material. Your earliest predecessors, then called the Justices of the Inferior Court, first met in Clinton in 1808, Thomas Jefferson's last year as president. 10 years later, in 1818, the Barron House, the historic house in question, already stood, located on essentially the same parcel it now occupies. 3 years later, in 1821, your predecessors defined the town boundary of Clinton as a circle with a radius of 1/2 mile, centered at the Clinton Courthouse. By the time Gray became county seat in 1905, the Justices of the Inferior Court had become the county commissioners, and Clinton had become a quiet backwater. In the mid-1930s, photographers from the Historic American Building Survey visited Clinton. Their photos constitute part of the largest and most heavily used collection in the Prints and Photographs Division of the Library of Congress. These images brought Clinton's wealth of antebellum structures to national attention and ushered in a period when Clinton began to appear in many books and magazines devoted to history and to historic homes. That trend has continued. Just this month, the current spring 2019 issue of Georgia Backroads showcased Clinton as a tourist destination. In 1974, the Old Clinton Historic District was created and listed on the prestigious National Register of Historic Places, with its area originally bounded by the 1821 town limits. The Old Clinton Historical Society was also organized in 1974 to help maintain and preserve the historic district, within which stand over a dozen of Jones County's 18 nationally registered pre-Civil War structures. Of these, the Barron Place figures vitally to the Clinton Historic District. The parcel's back boundary is identical to the southeast boundary of the district, so that the distance between Pulaski Street and the 4-lane highway forms something of a buffer to noise, as well as a kind of visual shield from what lies beyond. The Barron Place also begins a proposed preservation corridor east of Randolph Street that includes 2 other antebellum structures. Directly across from the Barron Place, 2 additional historic structures have been relocated along Old Pinckney Street: the Pine Ridge Schoolhouse and Judge Richard Johnson's law office. Beyond them lie the archaeologically rich Morgan Tannery site, as well as Jake's Woods, the forested location of a surface granite quarry long worked by African-American stonecutter Jacob Hutchings, who represented Jones County in the General Assembly during Reconstruction. The originally proposed preservation district has already bowed more than sufficiently to the demands of commercialization. 2 of the most important sites in the area south of the 4-lane, which were projected for historical archaeological investigation, the sites of the Griswold Foundry and Manufacturing and the Clinton Female Seminary, are now beneath various businesses. Governor Charles McDonald's Clinton House site is now the location of Hart's Mortuary, and several of that structure's foundation stones may be seen tumbled down the bank toward Light and Tie Road. The site of Jacob Hutchings' house is now Popeye's. Our county contains 394 square miles, many of them open to development. The Clinton Historic District has already shrunk from 4/5 of a square mile to 2/5 of a square mile. What remains must be preserved, not commercialized. Please deny this request.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Bragg? Thank you, Mr. Bragg.
Thank you.
Valerie Lewis, I think you're signed in for both Clinton and Red Clay. Would you like to come?
I live in Haddock and am speaking to deny the commercialization of this property as a member of the Old Clinton Historical Society. And Earlene has told you all the good reasons, and so has Mr. Bragg, so I won't reiterate all of that, but just standing in opposition of it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Davis, Virginia Davis, were you signed in for, what were you signed in for? This one? This one? Would you like to come? Well, yeah, we can come forward on forward.
Well, you need to finish off.
Oh, finish up the, all right, anyone else? Here, we've got time for 1 or 2 more.
Commissioners, my name is Louise McKinstry. My husband Mike and I are residents of Jones County and are members of the Old Clinton Historical Society. I am also a graduate of Wesleyan College. You know, we've already heard about that site has been destroyed, but Wesleyan was the first college in the world to grant bachelor degrees to women. And Wesleyan got its start in Clinton as Clinton Female Seminary in the early 1830s. And I hear it's under what, Popeyes now, or, my husband and I are against the rezoning of Old Clinton, which was established in 1808 and was the original seat of Jones County. And Old Clinton is one of the finest surviving examples of a relatively undisturbed early Georgian historical site, and we feel that commercial rezoning in the area will open the door for more commercialization in the future. And I hope y'all deny that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody else opposed to this that's got anything new? We one more and then we'll go to the fours.
My name is Janet Perna Plunkett. I'm the former Planning and Zoning Officer here in Jones County and also a long-standing member of the Old Clinton Historical Society. If the commissioners look at the 9 standards that are in the Planning and Zoning Ordinance that you all must legally decide this on, there's only one conclusion that you can come to, and that's that this request should be denied. Especially the section 154.3, whether the property to be affected by the proposed zoning decision has a reasonable economic use as currently zoned. That's a resounding yes. But each standard, if you go down through each one of these by law, I think that you'll conclude that it should be denied. And this property is in the heart of the historical district, and I also request respectfully that it be denied. Thank you.
Any questions for? Well, okay. Thank you very much. All right. To be fair, everybody here that's for this zoning, would you please stand or address by raising your hand? Okay. Ms. Davis, you wanted to come and speak?
I can come and reiterate what everyone else has said. Y'all be glad.
Huh?
I've had about 5 minutes less time. So.
Okay.
I too have been in Jones County all my life. Born in Howard, raised in Gray, moved to Macon and came back to Jones County. I don't understand why dividing the property to keep the Pulaski Street historical part separate from the part facing Gray Highway can't be granted. That's just one thing I don't understand. And I don't see me getting an answer from it for it right now. But if you separate it and you create a barrier, sound barrier, whatever kind of barrier between the two properties, I don't see that it couldn't be done. And I don't see that it's proper to designate to someone what they can and cannot do with their property. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Davis, what's your first name?
Virginia.
Virginia.
We need Tim back here for some clarification.
We do. I'd ask for if there are any more opposed.
Is there any more opposed? We're trying to keep the time equally, and opposed had a little bit more time. Anybody opposed that's got anything new to? We'd like to hear from everybody, but take the opportunity if you got something new that hasn't been. If none, Mr. Petrowski, I think Attorney Brody has.
Jim right here. Chairman.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think it needs to be opposed because the board's getting around
Okay.
10 more minutes.
Or just, okay, well, then we'll get Mr. Petrowski.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Anthony Miller.
Yes.
I was born and raised in Jones County, went into the military, served for 23 years. I'm now back into this area. I don't see the reasoning behind not being able to subdivide the property. keeping the historical house that is available there, opening up the commercial line on the front line of 129. My brother is across the street from that house. His property is already deemed commercial. And as you said, Popeyes is right down the street from it, right across from the same property. So I see that there's no reason why this shouldn't be granted for them to be able to divide this property so that they would have a reason and a way to go forth as far as their finances are concerned. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
May I? Because I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Very briefly, because the
We're trying to keep
floor group has had much more time than the opponent.
We're trying to keep it both sides.
Well, I'm going to make it very short, simple, and
Sure.
sweet, and, because I've said a lot of things in previous meetings. But we really want it granted. We've even offered the historical people, they could have the house and take it, like they move the other buildings, they can move that when we give it to them, no charge. So, but even with zoning the entire property commercial, the house will be kept. And it will not be, anything done to it. It was just to allow whoever buys a commercial to put what's there. Because I think Ms. Petrosky told me a while back, it was supposed to be one building per lot. But when Mr. Bill Luckadoo owned the facility, he was allowed to build 2 other houses. And so therefore, that's why there are 3 houses. But we're also willing to tear down whatever we need to tear down and just leave the historical home. But I truly believe it's going to be a benefit for Gray, and it's not going to detract from anything that's already there. Pool was dug there, so the ground has already been disturbed. There are other pools in Clinton, other changes in Clinton. So I just don't want to be treated any different from other prior business people that are in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Petrosky,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Petrosky, I've got a few clarifications for the record's sake. I've heard Ms. Gage, the attorney, and numerous people for this request state that why can't we just subdivide? This is not a request to subdivide this parcel. Is that correct?
That is not before the commissioners at this time.
So before this board is a request to rezone the entirety of the parcel.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't hear. Commissioner Martin, can you hear us all right? Commissioner Martin.
I can hear you much better now.
Okay, all right.
Next, I heard Ms. Gage also reference that this parcel would remain in the historical overlay district. It's my understanding that's not accurate.
The application was received, and that was not clear on the application. I called Ms. Ridley the day we received it to clarify if she was requesting to retain the historic overlay or not. She said she would find out and then call me back. I did not get notified again. The application itself did not specify retention of the historic overlay. It just merely says to rezone to C2, and so that's the way we advertised it.
So this was advertised with it being removed from historical overlay and no reference as far as a subdivision.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would you clarify the changes in the future land use, which was in effect in 97, how that has changed for the board?
The previous land use map, the 90, I believe it was the 91 and the 2000 editions, showed the subject area as commercial in the future land use map. In fact, it included a sizable portion of the area between Pulaski and Gray Highway. Subsequent revision to the future land use map took that out, showing it as residential. So the current land use map shows this area as suburban residential.
And that's our current comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Any questions from the board, Ms. Petrosky? Okay, at this time,
One, Chairman, just for clarification, when you talk about the historical overlay being intact or removed, if it's intact, should the property be rezoned commercial, the historical aspects would still be in place, so that would have to be adhered to?
Any modification of the site would be required to submit for a certificate of appropriateness before I could issue a building permit. So they would retain architectural control over the site. They would not have any say over the use of the property. If it's rezoned to commercial, any permitted commercial use would be allowed, but it would have to meet the architectural guidelines they have.
So if it's not intact, then it's open to any structurally or aesthetic look.
That's correct. We don't have any design guidelines that would apply at that point.
Any more questions from the board? This time I'll entertain a motion.
I think it's in my district, Mr. Chairman. So based on the information that was shared tonight and the information was presented and the question was asked by our attorney, I have to make the proposal that we go along with the planning and zoning board and recommend the denial of the redistricting of the property.
All right, I have a motion for denial. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any more discussion?
And I think it would, the motion.
You said that motion is I can't hear it.
Okay, we've got a motion to deny and a second, Commissioner Martin. Any time for discussion? Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Well,
Did you say a motion to deny?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Tim's got something.
Just to make clear, this is a motion to deny the request for rezoning.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Martin, you've got the conversation. We've got a motion to deny. Ask him if he hears.
Could you hear us, Commissioner Martin?
I just heard a motion to deny. Is that correct?
And a second, yes, and it's open for discussion.
Okay. Just real quickly, I'm looking at the comprehensive plan for Jones County in the city of Gray that has a list of at least 20 people that participated in this process. And along Gray Highway, it's identified as being available for business and economic development. And this is kind of counterintuitive if that was in the comprehensive plan. And it almost stretches all the way out to Highway 18 based on how I read it. And I'm just curious, did anybody go back and review that before this decision? And more importantly, if Popeyes is allowed to be across the street and we have mixed use along Gray Highway, how can we vote to deny this?
Commissioner Martin, the 2000, this is Ashley Brody. The 2007 comprehensive plan identified our future land use map for this particular parcel as a suburban residential, not as a commercial use. So this parcel is zoned residential. I know across the street, you get outside of that historic overlay, and it is zoned differently in that future land use map. But this one before the board in that plan is residential.
Right, I understand the current zoning, but the actual comprehensive plan, in my opinion now, again, I'm not an attorney, but in my opinion, is comprehensive and doesn't exactly look granular at individual zoning flats. It looks at what our plan should be for the county. And again, it talks about leveraging Gray Highway for economic development and business expansion. So when I look at what happened a meeting ago where it was allowed to shoehorn a Dollar General into a neighborhood. Now here you have a strip of land on the primary thoroughfare that could maximize our potential for economic development. We're not going to do it. So it's a little confusing for me, but it's in a comprehensive plan. We're using Gray Highway for that purpose. So I'm just stating that, and that's what's in our plan. Maybe we need to go back and update our plan and really have a conversation about what lots we're really going to use and allow people to use for economic development. And to a point, all citizens should have the opportunity to maximize highest and best use for the land. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If Popeyes can be across the street, surely Burger King, McDonald's, Dairy Queen could be on that corner. So I'm just stating that. I rest my case.
All right. Any more discussion?
Commissioner Pitts, your motion, I think it would need to be phrased for the record that based on the standards of decision in section 154 of our code.
Okay. So based on the standards of the recommendations I call the 154, that I make the motion to deny the rezone of this piece of property.
We've got a second. Second. If there's no more discussion, all in favor for denial? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
4-1. Thank you very much. Ms. Petrowski, you ready to go forward with our next zoning issue?
Yes, sir. Item B is a request by Red Clay Road LLC. This is a request for a variance to create a substandard private road. They have requested creation of a 30-foot right-of-way rather than the 60-foot as required by the CLDR. This would be for a private road serving only 3 lots. It currently is comprised of 2 lots, one of them being 6 acres, the other one being approximately 20 acres. This would subdivide that 20 acre into 2 smaller pieces. This is a variance, so there is not a recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Any questions for Mr. Petrowski? None? Is the applicant here? Would like to come forward?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Mark Ross, and I live at 139 Longleaf Lane in Gray, and I'm a member of Red Clay Road. And what we're asking a variance to do is use the 30-foot of road frontage on Etheridge Road to access the property, which is 809 Etheridge Road, 5.3 acres, as well as the 20 some odd acres in the back. And the purpose of that would be able to allow the back portion, the 20 some odd acres, to be divided into approximate 9 to 10 acre tracts, 2 tracts. So it would be no more than 3 tracts located there. And we're not asking for a rezoning, we're just asking for a variance on the road width.
Any question? I went through there this afternoon. I think this is the old Bateman track, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, is it right there closer to 129? I thought saw the. Am I?
No, sir. It's
where was it located?
It's a mile and a half or so down on the right.
On Etheridge.
On Etheridge.
Okay, but there's a yellow sign out there. Yeah, there's an existing driveway, I think.
We just had the Public Works put in a new culvert there at the location of the 30-foot of road frontage.
Okay.
The number is 809 Etheridge Road.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
Do you know the proposed usage of once you divide it? Is the intent to sell it or keep it in?
We would not change the use. It would still be Ag 1. So we're not asking for a rezoning. We can live within the agricultural zoning. I think everything in that area is Ag 1, I believe.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, I have to get the opportunity. We got a couple here signed on the pose. Would like to come forward. I think it is Mr. Terry Green.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My current address is 3608 Sussex Drive, Milledgeville, Georgia. I own 91 acres at 905 Etheridge Road. Of that 91 acres, a year ago I purchased 5.85 acres from Red Clay Road. This is the portion that borders my land. I purchased that property because there's a creek that's a back boundary of my place, and that 5.85 acres would make a perfect pond site for me. My question here, when and if this substandard road is granted and that 10-acre lot sells that's next to me, what kind of buffer will I have as far as building on the line? Or will
There would be a
I should ask you this morning, Tim, I'm sorry.
There would be a 50-foot setback off of that property line.
50 foot, okay. And I have a little more vested interest in this. That home place at Breezy Hill is my great-grandmother's and grandfather's home place. And also my mother was born there. this land that we're allowing this variance of substandard road was owned by my grandparents and my Aunt Alice, who sold it and it got divided. And I hunt that area and I enjoy the wilderness, but I know something's going to have to be done with that land. So I want to thank you for the information on the boundary, and I'm neutral on this point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Ms. Lewis, you were signed in for both?
Yes.
Would you like to come forward?
I'm Valerie Lewis. The property that Terry referred to, Breezy Hill, is our home, and this property by a few lots over butts up to that. I'm unsure, it may be just a zoning question as to once this is divided into 3 agricultural lots, what can happen as far as the zoning being agricultural? Is this still gonna stay our nice woods that, the deer and the antelope play, or will it be able to have residential mobile homes? What will be the use of these 3 lots?
The zoning is not changing. The permitted uses in effect today will be the same tomorrow if this is approved. So mobile homes are allowed on the property currently and would be allowed on the property tomorrow.
Well, then I guess I don't have a dog in this fight. I thank you for that clarification. I still would not like to have 3 lots back there. A substandard road, that sort of speaks volumes. Who's going to maintain this road? Who's going to keep it up? We've got a lot of substandard road frontage and road subdivisions that the city and county have had to take over. So I question the wisdom of that.
That would, I think this road would be a private road. It wouldn't be something.
Wouldn't be something that he
No, ma'am. It would be a
ever
private
have to
road
maintain.
that I presume all 3 lots would share. And
I still am not in favor. I wish that y'all would deny this request.
all right, thank you very much. Anyone else like to come forward? We have one more.
My name is Jesse De Niro. I live at the adjacent lot, 811 Etheridge Road, and I just want to know how far off the driveway, the private road, would be off the property line. It's one question.
We do not have a required setback.
No required, so it could be directly on the
Yes.
property line? Okay. And can the property be divided after, say, it's sold? Could it be divided down further after that? Or would it be?
They'd have to go through the same process that we're doing right now to see if it can be subdivided further. Regulations set a maximum of 3 lots on a private road. So this would maximize what's allowed under the current regulation.
And it's maximum of 3?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
What was your last name again?
De Niro.
Dinero?
De Niro. DENARO.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? If none, Commissioner Pitts, I think this is in your backyard again.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I made a motion to approve the request for variance.
I have a motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
At this time, any discussion?
Commissioner Martin, can you hear?
Was that a motion to approve his zoning request?
Yes, I
It's not a zone, it's a variance.
A variance, no rezoning, a variance.
The variance, sorry, just making sure I heard approval. Okay, thank you.
That's it. If there's no more discussion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Straussman. We move on to board appointments tonight. Ms. Margie, we got I think you were going to handle this appointment of Georgia Department of Behavior Health and Development and Disabilities, representing Jones County to complete a 3-year term ending June.
Chairman, board members, Judge Mike Crane, who is in the audience back there, currently is on this board. He is wishing to come off of it. He has, he's willing to stay on it until you appoint a replacement. He has recommended Burt King as a replacement to be on this board. I have advertised it. I've also reached out to Sandra Harris, who we currently have an application on file for. She is interested in it. Both applications are in your packet. And
That was June 30th, 2021 to be exact, would be the ending date of this.
That's right.
Right. See, any questions for Ms. Marty or your zoning pack? Or is this something y'all would like to take an opportunity to look at and table it to the next meeting? Have an opportunity. I'm sorry? Are both candidates here tonight?
Mr. King, yes.
I'm here.
Ms. King, you got an opportunity to come forward if you'd like.
I've submitted my application. I'll be glad to answer your questions, but it'd be an honor to serve.
All right.
I'm okay with taking Ms. Harris a chance to speak if she wishes to.
All right. All right. Is that fine with y'all? Have an opportunity to look at both applications, and that's fine. Since we had two people interested, if I can get a motion to table to the next meeting, give them both opportunity to speak.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we table to the next meeting.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye. Commissioner Martin, this motion to table has been seconded. Yep. The vote.
For Ms. Harris appointment?
To table it, to give both of them a chance to speak. Ms. Harris is not here tonight.
I agree.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
I can hear you really good, Sam. I can't hear anybody else.
I'm closest to the phone.
We'll let you be the interpreter.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to sign it to you.
All right, we're moving on tonight. Consent agenda and for approval of the minutes, we had the first Tuesday, February 19th, 2019, and an executive session, February 19th, 2019. If everybody's had an opportunity to look at this, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
No more discussion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin? Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Visitor tonight, Layman Watson Drive. He's not here tonight. Ms. Martin,
he sent a letter.
His daughter sent in a letter on behalf of he and she requesting that we just remove their request to abandon Watson Drive from our agenda, and they no longer wish to proceed with that.
And I talked with his wife also, and they said they were going to send that letter, and they just asked if we could the signage we had talked about putting up there at the dead end, if we could go forward with that. They asked if we could do that, possibly show them a little love during the year, maybe trimming up something, because they keep it up nicely, but if there's something we can possibly do to help them out signage wise, I told them I felt like we could do it. So.
I think Ms. Tyson sent out that letter to the board this afternoon.
Right, and the letter is asking, we would like to withdraw the request, and additionally, we would like for the Jones County Board to honor the request to place hazard signs or some type of reflective devices at the end of Watson Drive, as well as a sign attached to Watson Drive reading dead end. The two signs that are currently in place are often bypassed as regular road signs, whereas the hazard reflective sign at the end of the road and a yellow dead end sign attached to the street sign may deter individuals from coming down the road.
All right.
Commissioner Martin, you hear it?
I cannot hear it.
Layman Watson's request to close Watson Drive is withdrawn. He no longer wishes to close it. Requesting that the county put up reflective signs at the dead end and some dead end signs at the beginning of the road.
Okay, that was in the email. That's fine.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. All right, going forward on new business tonight. Resolution to submit the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. Ms. Susan Lanford, you're going to come forward, and also Government Specialist from Middle Georgia Regional Commission. We got all kinds of titles, don't we?
Yeah, and you've got three things coming up for me, so.
You need a chair.
I might. Let me get started and we'll see. So let's give a brief overview of what the current CDBG project looks like. It's a little bit different than what we talked about last month. It's actually a lot smaller. And so there will actually be no conflicts of interest. It's going to be on looking at Alton Road and Otahe Drive at this point. And so what I'm looking for, the first thing is a resolution to submit. And one of the key things that resolution will require is the amount that Jones County wants to put forward is a match. But there's a larger financial picture here. And Mr. Ingram, I believe, has provided some documents to you all about some of the phases of this project. So there are 2 phases that we're looking at today. There's a phase 1 and then the phase 1A. And so phase 1, which is just, I believe, Alton Road only, and that's approximately 24 potential customers, would be $985,501 is an estimate that includes construction, engineering, administration, contingencies, etc. The CDBG grant amount is only $750,000. So there would need to be some sort of funding plan for that additional about $230,000. Additionally, you would also have to have a match amount for the $750,000, which would be a minimum of $22,500. So you've got to do the minimum $22,500 for the $750,000 plus a plan for the remaining $230,000. That's phase 1, just Alton Road. Phase 1A includes Otahe Drive. And if you did both of them, that would bring it up to 1.2 million. And so that would be about 39 potential customers. Same story, CDBG only is $750,000. Now you're having to find $450,000 to cover the rest of the project. So today we're looking to determine if this is a project that you want to move forward on, and to what amount do you want to do a match on the $750,000 alone. And we also need to be thinking that to submit this, we have to have a plan for where that money comes from. We don't have to have it guaranteed at this point, but I need to know, is it coming from USDA? Is it coming from a GFA loan? What is our plan going to go forward when we submit by April 1?
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, where are we going to get the money?
Yeah, where we going to get the money? That's my question. Jason, you got some hid somewhere we don't know about?
I do not. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's the tough part of this whole thing is, you know, I don't know, outside of, you know, borrowing the money, and I don't even know that we could work our way through the GFA process between now and April 1st if you wanted to go out and borrow the 235 or whatever it is. You know, I think our new construction account is pretty well committed to other projects that the board has approved, and we do have the construction savings account, I think it's called, but you know, if we spend that down, you don't have much to fall back on. That's and right. So I can't recommend, you know, using that pot of money, and there's not much there beyond the 235. So I'm kind of at a loss on this one.
It sounds like it's undoable at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's Commissioner Martin, any comment?
Just to confirm, with McCreary Drive and the food taken out, is that why it's smaller?
Correct. So this is only Alton Road and Otahe Drive. So the project that I showed you all last time is about 7 phases. So after we did the engineering analysis initially, we discovered that it needed to be broken up. So McCreary Drive has been taken out of this initial phase.
And nowhere to get the money from at this time.
Okay.
What's the board's wishes?
Now, with that revision, does that eliminate the conflict that you and Commissioner Martin have?
Okay. I don't have anything.
Commissioner Martin, does that eliminate the conflict of interest you had in our last time we voted on this?
Right. I mean, I'm okay. I just wanted. I was looking at the scope of the project, and for those dollars, it just seemed like a lot for that area. But I know it's a little different over there. But at the same token, it is what it is. Overall, just from an income perspective, you're going to need to wrap McCreary Drive in with some of the others because you do have retired income over there. To kind of balance it out, I think later you will find that including it up front probably would have been easier, but for tonight's purposes, I understand it, I'm okay.
Well, Commissioner Martin, for the record, at one point I owned properties on Alton, and all those septics were repairable in that area on the properties I did own because they have been fixed. It's not a situation of no choice. There is an opportunity to fix them because I did own 3 years ago that I sold, and they were all 3 repaired during the period of time I owned them. So there is opportunity to repair the septics that are in that area. So it's not like we're leaving them out.
Okay.
So what's the board's wishes?
Well, I don't think we have a choice. So what motion is in order to just not make a motion to go forward with it?
Motion to not submit for the grant.
Motion to not go for the grant?
Right.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I have a motion not to go for the grant. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Is there any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin? Motion not to go for the grant.
Commissioner Martin, we had a motion not to apply for the grant at this time, and it was seconded. And
I'm going to oppose.
okay.
All right.
Opposed.
Opposed, 4-1. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So my second item is moot at this point. That was a memorandum of understanding between MGRC and Jones County to administer and apply for that grant. That is no longer relevant. So we'll go on to 3. The City of Gray requested an update to the service delivery strategy. They wanted to add housing private assistance to the service delivery strategy, allowing them to focus on blight, new affordable housing development, assistance to private homeowners, et cetera. The City of Gray went ahead and approved this change. Nothing else changes in the SDS, and so I just come before you all to also approve this amendment to the SDS.
So we're approving them the opportunity to go for the.
It doesn't affect us in any way.
It does not affect you all whatsoever, but because you're all in the same service delivery strategy, you all have to amend together.
If there's something they want to do that's good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm all for it. So the motion needs to be to approve the update to service delivery strategy.
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion. We approve the update to the service delivery strategy.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion real quick.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think we need to have a work session to really discuss service delivery strategy in totality, not in a piece. So I just want to put that out there on the table. For that reason, I oppose.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. You didn't need a chair after all, did you? Thank you. All right, as we go forward, approved contract with Georgia Probation Management, Inc. for the probation supervision and rehabilitation services. Are you doing that? Who's doing that one? Judge Green? Should I ask prior to see who's handling it?
That's for the magistrate court.
Yeah.
We have a contract with this same company for probation services and probate court. Also, the Superior Court has the same company. So we're just asking to include magistrate court. There's a lot of county ordinance violations that we could use them to supervise people when we've ordered them to do certain things. So it's the same exact contract as we have with them with probate court.
All right. Any questions for Judge Green? If not, I entertain a motion.
Motion approved, Chairman.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Martin, any more discussion?
No.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Ayes have it. All right. Foot golf. Mr. Goins, or
you come up. What it is, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. About a month or so ago, I brought up the idea about doing foot golf, and I think the board had some additional questions about it. So I was able to find some information about it. I sent Ms. Tyson an article that was in the National Golf Course Owners Association magazine talking about how foot golf is not a fad. And I just wanted to bring it back to the board's attention to determine if this is something that you want to pursue. I think it was covered on the news that Matt talked to Channel 13. They talked about it. And there's currently a special that they have right now if people will join us at $3,700. And what we'll receive is 20-foot golf cups with lids, 19-foot golf flags, 1 through 18, and 1 has a logo only, 19 orange and white 2-piece flag sticks, 36-foot golf tee markers with soccer ball design, 24 Under Armour soccer balls, a listing on the American Foot Golf League map of courses, so we'll get some recognition when it comes to tourism, 500 custom foot golf scorecards, marketing, best practice assess, and 1 year American Foot Golf League membership and accreditation, and it'll all be shipped to us. So I just want to bring it back to the board's attention to determine if this is something that they want to pursue. I think it's a great idea. I think it'll increase tourism. It'll give us something a little different that nobody else has in the area, and just a little bit more recognition.
So they've dropped the price from $5 down to $3,700?
Well, it's a special.
For right now.
Right, and the special ends, I think, is March the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why I was bringing to the board's attention. If you want to do it now, we can do it. Otherwise, it's going to go back up, and we just miss out on this opportunity.
Yeah, I was down at the golf course a couple weeks ago thanking everybody for a job well done, and I didn't really get, I don't know that I got a straight answer or a good answer as far as what was the reception with our current golfers there.
It's, I would say it's a mixed bag. We've had this little pamphlet out around the golf course pro shop there for probably the last month, and we've talked to a number of people who've come in. Some are just curious, some are for it. Obviously you're always going to have those that don't like change, that are against it, and the majority of people just have a lot of curiosity. It seems to be the common consensus is they're not against it, they just don't want it to impede what they're doing, which is understandable, which is why most golf courses who implement foot golf do it during their slow times, not during their busy times.
Sure. I'm just curious. Like I said, I saw that flyer down there, and I asked, and not that I didn't get a straight answer. I don't think anybody was knowledgeable about, what the feelings were on it. Any questions for Matt on this? Commissioner Martin, any questions?
No questions.
Yeah. And this is something, if it didn't work at the golf course, could probably be moved, correct?
It can be, yes, sir.
Which else?
Have we done any, Matt, polling of the members, existing members, and you got any idea? I mean, is it 50-50? Is it generally favorable? Is it generally not favorable?
It's generally favorable. Do you have your 7 or 8 that are going to say no, but they're going to say no to almost anything we try to do? But the majority of the membership, again, just has that curiosity factor, and again, just don't want to impede what they do. And they're not against it. They just want to make sure that it doesn't hinder them from coming out and enjoying golf. And based on how we have it structured and the timelines that we look at implementing it, it should not affect our membership.
Do high school, I played high school golf. Do high school teams across the country have foot golf teams now?
No, ma'am.
I didn't know if that was
Hadn't moved that far yet.
Yeah.
And when the guy first came and talked to us about it, it's kind of a startup program. It's kind of new. Are they breaking? Are they taking flight with this thing, or is it? How many do we have? Do you know if we have how many we have in Georgia or
5? I think
in Georgia.
I think so. Yes, sir. It's one of those things that depending on if you go to different conferences, if you go down to Jekyll to GRP conference, or if you go to an NRPA conference or an A's conference, and you talk to people about what's going on in their region, one of the fastest growing sports you hear is pickleball, which requires a tennis court basically, and a lot of people are converting their tennis courts into pickleball courts. Pickleball is generally played by a senior class. So it just depends on your different region, what grabs hold, what doesn't. And so like most recreational sports, you don't know if it's just going to become a novelty or if it's going to become a catch and actually, go somewhere. It's one of those things that I think I can't sit here and say that it's going to be a revenue buster and it's going to change our budget. I wish I could, but do I think it's got a potential in this area considering there's no one else in the middle of Georgia? I mean, I think we'll get business. I can't sit here and promise how much.
And to comment on what you said, I think they even have a pickleball tournament in Macon. I mean, it's really big. You have a tournament.
Pickleball.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The ball, I mean, I guess the ball looks like a pickle.
No, it's just let Matt describe it.
I'm just trying to figure out why would they call it pickleball?
I don't know where the name came from, but I've heard about it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, you don't know where it's going when you hit. You don't know where it's going to go.
Tell them about it, Matt. It's literally on the tennis court, right?
It's on a tennis court. It uses a little bit smaller of a net. It basically takes the old beach tennis, use a wooden racket and a ball like you used to play on the beach with a wooden racket and a ball. It's basically that method, but it's done on a tennis court.
I guess I didn't get to the beach much. I didn't see that either. But
yeah, it's interesting. They do play that in schools. They have a friend that's a coach in Houston County, part of their recreation. They play it in the gym. So it's just something new and something different.
But I will say that I have spoken with Jones County Board of Education Unified Sports Department. If you don't know what that is, that's where our special needs or challenge students get teamed up with normal kids, and they do activities together, and they're excited when I talk to them about an opportunity for them to have another activity for our unified kids in the community. So that's something they're excited about.
you see them out there. I think that I don't want to have to compete against them.
So, just the consensus of the board to move forward, or just gonna?
Yeah, I think if it's something y'all want to do, we can bring something to vote on. Set of rules, cost, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we were talking about not having it after, say, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon so it didn't interrupt with the normal golf play. Is that true? Most of them play in the mornings until.
Basically,
I'm not a golfer, so I'll
right. So, what we would look at doing here in Jones County is Monday through Thursday, you would be able to play after 1 p.m. because the majority of our members tee off before 9. They're done generally by 1 p.m. Friday through Sunday, you wouldn't be able to tee off until after 3. Generally after 3, our traffic is on the back side of the course because they're finishing their round of the back 9. So we would be able to play this on which we would play it all on the front 9 because you put all 18 holes on 1 9. So then we'd be able to open it up and after 3 o'clock on Friday through Sunday.
But you need to know something by the 15th to get the discount.
Right.
To save 13.
Right.
To save $1,300, yes, sir.
Right. So, Mr. Chair, I made the motion that we move forward with purchasing the Foot Golf Association package and establish Foot Golf in Jones County.
I'll second that.
We got a second, all right. Any more discussion? Oh, go ahead.
I've forgotten to do this before, but can we add a budget amendment to move the necessary funds from contingency to golf course?
Golf, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
We got anywhere else to move from? We can't keep getting.
All right, the motion.
So, Mr. Chair, I made the motion that we implement Foot Golf in Jones County using money from the contingency fund to establish this sport.
All right, second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it. Looking forward to see how it does.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Foot golf.
It's from Jones County first, all right?
All right.
And we're the leader.
So we're going to have a commissioner's tournament?
I think we should because I'm talking to Robert, the guy that gave us the presentation. He's willing to come and do like an orientation. So I'm up for a challenge, all right? I challenge the
let me get my knee back well after I got run down by 2 pit bulls yesterday, and I'll take you on it. Don't let
take pictures.
Don't let no man show you out. No. All right. All right, going on. Bid to purchase. Let's see. Bids for purchase items by department heads. Mr. Resner, I think you've got us a list of items we need to put up for bid on a volume basis on a guaranteed 1-year contract.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I've gotten several things from our department heads. From Public Works, we've got several different types of rock that we use on a regular basis that we'd like to bid out, and a pipe and bands for those pipes. Also, emulsion are the items from Public Works, and then from the Water Department, we have a list of a lot of different chemicals that they use on a regular basis, and I don't know what all these things mean, so I won't try to read all this out, but just the various chemicals that they use on a regular basis for water treatment. And we'd like to bid those out. One question I was going to ask the board just would help us when we go to structure the bid package. So for instance, on the rock, there are different varieties of rock that we use. There may be 3 or 4 or 5 that we want to bid out. Would it be the wishes of the board that all that be awarded at one time, or do you want us to write it in such a way where you've got the flexibility to award this type of rock to this vendor and this type of rock to another vendor?
I think it'd be confusing. I think you need to go figure the package deal. To me, I think we're going with one or the other.
Right.
I'm thinking it'd get confusing if we have to go to one for one, and I think it'd create confusion. But we want to bid it in such a way that we're guaranteed for a full year, so
Right.
that a year from now we can revisit this again to see where we're at. And that way we're not subject to any increases, because I know myself, I've bid jobs and then all of a sudden 90 days later they give me a notification of increase that I didn't anticipate. This would lock us in with all these bids for at least a year, so we know for that upcoming year where we're going to be at.
We still want to itemize them out so we know which, in case one's out of whack and we.
You should, I would think, you'd be able to get a good idea on what volumes you've been using to see who's going to be the biggest savings.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, so it was just Water Department and Public Works is the only two we had at this time?
I think that's all we've got right now. Yes, sir.
All right, well, I need a motion to.
Chairman, can we add at least extend an invitation to the Board of Education and the city to show them what we're bidding for, and if they use any of those common materials, so we can, get economies of scale. Maybe we can all save money buying more in bulk.
Absolutely.
Okay. Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Number 7, approval to replace a van in building maintenance. As y'all know, we had a van that was totaled out and is in need of a new one to replace it with. Mr. Bobby? I think you and Jason have talked briefly as far as state contracts and all.
Yeah, the van needs to be replaced, and all the toolboxes inside of it was total. That's all I need.
I think we've got about 8,300 in the way of insurance proceeds, something along those lines.
Yeah, the other one's 2012. Wasn't very many miles on it.
So we'll have the insurance proceeds plus, whatever the balance is will need to come from contingency. And it looks like, Bobby, you think between 25 and 30,000 all total for a new one?
I hadn't priced one of those. It's been a long since 2012 since I priced one. I hadn't done any search on it.
Some of the state contract pricing looked to be kind of in that range, so that's what I would anticipate. And
that's a 3/4 ton van. Yeah, it's got to be heavy enough to tow the trailers.
So if the board's okay with it, I would frankly haven't had much luck when we tried to bid out just a single vehicle, and we found the state contract to be the way to go on those things. So if it's okay with the board, I'd like to make that purchase through the state contract.
Well, I need a motion to allow him to.
Motion to approve the purchase of a van for building and maintenance.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second.
And can we
Commissioner
add the
Martin,
budget amendment to that one too? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And
Just
to make the appropriate move from contingency.
Budget amendment.
Sorry.
Budget amendment from contingency.
You're getting good at that tonight.
Ms. Levita?
Ms. Levita, you hear what Commissioner Martin's talking about that money? Do you want to get him now or later?
We do have an AED right? I think we're going to need it.
She give you the cutthroat sign, man. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Get you a new vehicle, Bob. No old business department heads. Mr. Lowe, you want to start tonight? You've been mighty quiet. I seen a couple head. Wow. Mr. Felty?
Yes, I'm just, a couple weeks ago, we had meter reader take class for Class 3 wastewater. And a couple days ago, she went ahead and took her test, so she did pass it. So I'm just very excited about that. So just want to give her props.
Mr. Goen? I know you're gonna come forward.
I handed out a couple
Don Graham's
things.
right behind you.
I handed out a couple of things before the meeting started, so you should have them right there in front of you. One of the things, every year we go through a process of background checks for every single sport. And so for every sport that we do, we have to collect background checks, or the board has to collect background forms, and you have to go through a notary process, and then we take those to the sheriff's office, and then we have to wait to get them back from the sheriff's office, then we have to go through them. It's a process. It's just a little bit of a challenge when we do it that way. Sometimes the season has already crept into beginning before we find out if we do or don't have someone that should or should not be coaching, and occasionally we do. I found a program, and one of the part of the package I gave you was I actually completed this program to see what was all involved in it. And it's put on by USA Sports, and what it does, it does a background check. It's good for 1 year. It also makes you complete some online education classes, and part of that is sexual misconduct awareness, emotional and physical misconduct, and mandatory reporting or understanding your responsibilities. These are little classes that you have to take online to get your card, and you see a picture of my card there that shows that you're a volunteer educated coach for the year of 2019. And so what I'm coming to you tonight, not looking for a vote or anything, I'm just giving you some information, because I will come back later on for a vote. I just wanted you to get food for thought and think about it. This would expedite our process for our coaches through some education, and it'd take probably a good 6 to 8 months to make sure everybody in the community understands what you have to do to become a volunteer coach for Jones County. But once a coach did it, they could coach all 4 sports without having to do 4 background checks. Currently, if Jason wanted to coach baseball, basketball, football, soccer, he has to do 4 individual applications, 4 individual background checks. This would expedite all that. All he'd have to do is walk up, show his card. They can write down his numbers on his card or Xerox a copy of his card, and he's good to go. And then every year, as each individual person starts to expire, they can renew themselves and keep on going. There is a fee associated with it. It's $25 per coach, per person. There's no way to take that away. That's just the fee for the program. Again, not looking for a vote or anything. Just want to give you all that information, food for thought, and I'll come back at a different meeting to look at implementing it. So
Matt, I do have a question. Excuse me, Mr. Ross. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
You say it's good for a year?
Yes, sir.
From the time they pass to that time again?
No, it's good for the physical year, the calendar year.
Okay.
So basically, that's what I'm saying. It would take a little bit everybody to get on the same track, but then once everybody fell into the same track, they would fall into that cycle.
You know, of course, I had was, Matt, if a person was to commit a crime or felony after I become a certified coach, would you be notified, or?
It would be no different than the way it is now. If say we just did baseball. Baseball opening day is this Saturday. We've already done their background checks. If you were to go out, if you went out yesterday and committed a crime, and we ran a background check in August, it may not show up because you may not have gone to court yet.
Right.
So you could coach football, and we would never know that you have a pending trial over here, because it wouldn't show up until your trial get some kind of disposition through your trial in order for it to show up on the background check. The way it currently works is the sheriff's office runs our backgrounds. They have a person in the house that reviews them. They flag anything that looks awkward, and then me and that person talk about that individual, and then we go from there.
And the current background check costs, what, maybe $20
I'm
now?
not sure what it costs the sheriff's office. I don't know.
So this program still does a background check, but in addition to that, it has these
Correct. That is correct.
Trainings.
The first thing you have to do is pass the background check. Then after you pass the background check, then it automatically sends you over to take these classes, and then before you can get your certification.
I think the trainings are great as far as protecting the county from having somebody around a child that shouldn't be.
You may have asked us to answer this, but how long does it take normally to complete each one?
It generally takes when you go online and register for the background check. It takes about 10 minutes. Then you have 48 hours before you get a response to whether you pass or fail. After that, actually maybe 72 hours. Then you'll get, go back in and you'll see that you passed or failed your background check, which you should probably know that before you register. But you'll know if you passed or failed. And then once you go online and start taking these online classes, it probably takes about 2 hours max.
Okay.
So you have to sit there and you watch a video. You can't speed through it. It won't let you. And then you have to answer a block of questions and so on and so on.
So if somebody just wanted to do the background check and really could you pay you $25, get the background check, and then not, if you didn't do the training, then you still just paid for a background check?
That's correct.
You just didn't finish your training.
But then that wouldn't, the way I'm going to present it to you, that wouldn't qualify you to coach for us. Correct.
I mean, really, the sort of the classes add an additional layer of protection to the county.
And it's all in the same program.
And how do we offer that? I mean, do we have these classes now?
Each association is supposed to send their coaches through NYSCA training, and where they're supposed to go online and they get a certification training and get a number, and then the associations are supposed to track those. I don't feel confident that that's being done. This way, we could track these through my office, because we could make every coaching application have this staple to it, which we would keep in our.
So right now we just require a background check.
Correct.
And I agree. Then it gives us a lot more protection, and it's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah. So the other thing is another paper I gave you talks about a monarch butterfly preservation program. What it does, it's a program that allows us to take portions of the golf course which are out of play areas, which has no play area whatsoever, so there's really no risk of a golf ball be hitting to these areas, but these areas that we still have to maintain for cosmetic purposes. What this program does, it helps us identify those areas. This program sends us it helps us with the process. They cover all the costs. There's no cost to us. And they send us the seed for the milkweed plants. And what it does is give beautification to that area, so you don't no longer have to maintain it, and it helps preserve the monarch butterfly. So what I am asking is your consensus that we can go ahead and apply for this program and get it started. Again, there's no cost to the county, a little bit of labor to get the ground prepared and get the seed in. But other than that, it actually saves us in the long run from having to maintain these areas. And these are no play areas.
Could Michael incorporate some of this into his maybe master gardeners or through some of his?
I'm sure he could.
Oh, that would be a big benefit to have that educational component tied in with it, and not child labor, but free, but help us with free labor there,
But I'm another area I'm looking at doing this with. I don't know if I'll get away with it, because the program specifically talks about golf courses, but at the Parks and Recreation, between the old complex and new complex, we got that bank. And if I can get them to bite off on letting me utilize that bank as a preservation area, again, that'll take the maintenance aspect off of that bank from us and allow us to have monarch butterfly preservation area.
Put a putting green on it.
So those are the two things. We are in the planning stages for our annual event. It'll be our third year doing it, the Bands in the Sand, which is a community event. Last year we had right at 1,000 participants. Again, it's a free event to the community. It's all done by fundraising dollars, and just giving you aware that it's going to be August the 10th. Miss Debbie's going to be great in helping us promote that again. But I just want to let you know that we are in the planning stages of that. We're going to have what we're looking at expounding on this year is we're going to have artists singing. We're looking to have a magic show. We're looking to have an obstacle course in a couple of different ways. We're also going to have the Duncan booth so that the mayor and chairman can get back in the Duncan booth. So anyway, it's going to be a fun event August the 10th, and I'll keep you informed as we get closer to that.
I think you ought to have duck your friendly commissioner. Oh, yeah. You need an answer on the butterfly?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. If I can get a...
I'm good.
I'm good.
Commissioner Martin, you still there?
I think he left.
He went to dinner.
Yep.
No, no, but he said he was gonna stay on there.
He texts he's on the way to dinner meeting.
It's still on there. He may have us
I
on
know he's
mute.
supposed to be taking tests, but when he couldn't hear, he was over there texting me, I can't hear.
So we're good to apply for the monarch butterfly?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Ms. Graham?
Yes, sir.
Again, the spaghetti was delicious.
Thank you. I didn't cook any of it. I'm glad. It was good. I think they had a good turnout. Really did. You know, the band and the fan is awful hard to come behind. That was a good program last year. This past Thursday, we graduated 16 new EMR folks. That's emergency medical responders. 6 of those were high school students from Jones County, seniors. And I can't remember if I had mentioned it to you guys previously. Seems like when I hit 60, I've lost my mind. But I applied for another grant for another EMR class, and it has been approved for 2020. And they're allowing me to start it in the fall of this year. So they'll graduate January of 2020. I'm going to try to get more students involved as they're exiting school and giving them a direction to medicine. But it's done real good. This is the second time I've done this with the high school students, and they're reacting. You know, we only had a couple the first class I had, and then now we've graduated 6 this last go, and they had made good grades too. Easy to teach, and they don't backlip you, and they're willing to learn, and I think that's awesome. With that being said, we started a firefighter class tonight. We've got over 17. We've got 17 folks on the roster. It started tonight, and it will go through fall, and then we'll get them down for this EMR class in the fall. So it works hand in hand. When they get certified, we'll have a small break, and boom, we'll hit them with the medical part. So, in the wake of the terrible storms that hit Georgia and Alabama and other parts, those were terrible storms, and I can't say how fortunate we are to get through and not having something bad like that to happen. I say you guys get on your hands and knees and pray that we don't ever have something like that. In our area, the state is split up in so many regions. We had, just in our region, we had 3 counties that were declared a disaster area. And Talbot County was hit, Stewart County was hit, and where's Pine Valley, Pine Mountain? That's in Harris County. That's correct. Those were under a declaration. I've been on the phone doing some verbal helping and things like that with the directors in those areas, but I guess what I'm saying is, please prepare now. We've got another round that's due this Sunday again, and they're expecting it being just as bad. With this cold sitting here, and then we've got a pound of warm weather coming up from the Gulf, and they're mixing up, and we're right in the crosshairs again Sunday. So prepare now. Prepare your plans for bad storms or whatever, whether it be just snow on the ground or whatever, wind, lightning. But these storms I suspect they'll find some more folks before it's over with, because there's 3 dozen that are still missing in Alabama alone. But I can't say enough that we need to prepare, and now is the time to prepare. since our last meeting, since we're talking about emergency preparedness, we lost a fellow EMA director in Houston County. He was a good friend of mine. I know Mr. Tommy had did a lot of work with him on the all hazards. Mr. Jimmy Williams passed away. He was diagnosed back in November with pancreatic cancer. Went for a scan, and it had gotten his lungs, his liver, and lots of other stuff that were involved. So he left us pretty quick. We say a prayer for him tonight. We buried him Friday afternoon. Last thing I've got is spring forward on Saturday night. We spring forward on our clocks. So it's a change of time and light, and that means it's going to get busy for us, which is always we're busy, but it makes it a little bit busy for the fire department and emergency care. So I spoke to the president from the homeowners association actually 3 times since you and I have spoke, and he is very, very knowledgeable. It turns out that where I grew up, he lived there for 16, 17 years. So we had a lot to talk to. I'm sorry?
Is that what makes him knowledgeable?
No, no, he was,
next door to you?
no, he was actually in a town 4 miles from me. So we had something to kind of, had a neutral zone there that we could talk, but very knowledgeable. He's thought about a lot of things from the railroad, our responses in River North, the 70 more houses that are going into River North. Makes us want to think about a ladder truck later on, because here we are at 511 homes right now in River North. River North just turned 50 years old. So we're looking at probably a quarter of the folks that bought into River North 50 years ago are well into their senior citizen. And so there's going to be more medical support we've got to think about. And then those houses, which probably half of them are 2-story houses. So he's got lots of good ideas, and I'm glad you put me on him. I hadn't talked to him in years, but very knowledgeable, guy. He's called me 3 times since then. So when he gets an idea, he'll call. But thanks for that contact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resner?
One quick one, Mr. Chairman. There'll be an ad that'll go in the Jones County News the next several weeks to let the public know about this. But we're nearing the end of the library project. The library is going to be closed to the public from March 11th to March 29th to give them time to move back into the facility, and they're planning to reopen April 1st. And I believe they'll be sending out notices to you soon, save the date kind of thing for a grand reopening sometime the first week of April, I believe. So we're still having a hard time with the weather over there, trying to finish up some of the outside things, but furniture is starting to be moved into the building and working on some punch list things there, and excited about getting that project wrapped up and getting our library back up and running in its original location. So,
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Any citizens like to come forward tonight? No citizen? Commissioner Robinson, you want to start us off tonight on commissioner comment?
I'm good. I think everything's been said.
All right, well, good.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a few things to make it real quick. I feel like Jason did a good job on this interview, Channel 13, about the dog park. Did a good job, as well as Sam, as well as what's going on over in Macon-Bibb County, them being recognized for the beautification. I think we got an email about some of our healthcare insurance. I think we need to really start focusing on a Live Healthy Jones initiative and maybe try to enhance that. Another thing that we're working on is work with the Boys and Girls Club. So if anybody's interested in helping out when it comes to 3 programs, the Smart Girls, Passport to Manhood, and Diplomas to Degrees, and it's all trying to enhance, young ladies as well as young men make wise choices. And then I think that's about it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Commissioner Kitchen.
I'd really like to say something about the weather, but I don't know where I would start. I mean, it's 75, 12, snow, rain, tornadoes.
26 tonight.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I have no explanation for that. Just pay attention to your weather and plan accordingly. Stay off the road if you don't need to be out there. It's where a lot of stuff happens. I would like to just make note that our animal shelter is full. They're in desperate need of donations and sponsors, just for food and everything else for the animals. If that weighs on your heart at any time, just please think about that. The biggest crowd we've had in a while tonight, for whatever the reason is, but a lot of our employees, so it gives us a good opportunity to say thank you to our employees. A lot of times when you don't hear anything, that's great news. That means you're doing exactly what you need to be doing, but just thankful, good employees, you can't say enough about them. Chairman said it several times that y'all are our biggest asset, and thank you to each and every one of you. So.
Ms. Brody?
Oh yeah, I was gonna let you all know, my husband and I are excited. We are expecting a little future Jones County taxpayer.
All right, congratulations.
We've been working on that project for a while. My daughter's almost 4, so we're excited
Maybe
about
it'll be
it.
twins.
No.
You don't need a TV show.
Yeah, I do not.
Don't need a TV
I just wanted to.
All right, well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
You've been going for a while, so I said,
Well, I figured at some point y'all are going to realize, well, she's getting bigger and bigger over there.
I didn't say that. So you've been glowing.
We would have never realized.
Never would have said anything, right? Well, I've had some inquiries. Last meeting we had a full house too with a haddock group that was in here with a concern. But I know the answer. But to confirm this, when we had the old railroad easement that was abandoned, the question was, did we abandon the entire easement or just on that parcel? Talking with Ms. Brody, and I knew the answer was that we only abandoned it on that one parcel. If you remember, the attorney from Mr. McNair's behalf made mention that the homes on either side of that parcel were sitting on that easement. That hasn't been abandoned. Ms. Brody, I'll turn it over to you, but I mean, it's a need for them to, I would think, come forward and ask for the same request for abandonment to get their home on their property.
That's correct. When Mr. McNair made his request, it was specific to an abandonment of the right-of-way that was detailed in the legal description and in the plat that was provided to the board. There are other homes, particularly ones on either side of that property, that also sit on our right-of-way. But if that's something that those homeowners seek to have us abandon, then they need to go through, for their particular property, the same process. And we do have our application now so that sort of the homeowner knows the process that it takes and the costs that are involved if they wish to seek to have a right-of-way or a road abandoned. But each would need to do that for their own parcels.
So, it's a matter of the citizens had it, research their property to see if they are indeed sitting on that right of way. And if so, I mean, it could present, I know for a fact, I bought a parcel like this one time, found out after the fact that it was sitting halfway on railroad property. And first thing I got from them was, you're going to tear them buildings down. Well, we finally worked it out, but it's not a good feeling when somebody tells you, well, your building's on my property, you got to tear it down. And that's basically what I was told. Not that the county's going to tell them to tear their homes down. It could affect them down the road if they wanted to sell. Particularly some of these mortgage companies will want a detailed plat, and if they see that this home's sitting on county right away, they're not gonna be able to sell it. You know, they're gonna have to, so it's just an opportunity. You know, it's an old railroad, right away that there's no railroad in Haddock. So like I said, it's, if they like to come forward and ensure that their properties and homes are sitting on there, they need to, you know, go through this application process.
To have it abandoned.
I got a question for Ms. Brody. Does it matter how we acquired the property as far as if it was given to the county or if we paid for it and we get ready to turn it back over?
It does.
Okay. So there's actually have to research how we acquired it.
If we've had it for more than 50 years, not really. If the board determines that there's really no monetary value, then not really. But it matters if there's significant monetary value to the parcel that's requested being abandoned, or if we've had it for less than 50 years.
I was just wondering because I remember some sheriff deed lots and stuff that they were making, and we had to sell them at the highest bid.
Yeah, if there's monetary value, we cannot just abandon it. It does have to go up for bid.
All right. That answered the question. Like I said, I had the question, you know, called on me, and I felt like I knew the answer, but that way we've got Miss Debbie can report on it, that if there is citizens that feel like their property's on it, they can come forward and clear up the easement issue. Well, is there anything else tonight? If not, I need adjournment to motion to adjourn and go into executive session for personnel.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's a continuing from last session. Okay. Will be personnel and land acquisition from previous session. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Ayes have it. Thank y'all. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but you've been glowing for a while. My youngest daughter is pregnant. Also, Thanksgiving. I look at her and I told